Hi, I'm Judy Graybill, relationship healer and certified stepfamily coach, helping you go from conflict to connection to partnership. I specialize in moderate to high conflict relationships. And today I want to talk about the real cause of ReDivorce in stepfamilies in honor of National Stepfamily Day, which is this Saturday, September 16th. Okay. I don't know if you are new to being in a stepfamily or not, but you might be under the impression that it's stepfamily dynamics. If you've read anything on the subject, you might think stepfamily dynamics is the cause for ReDivorce. In fact, most people in the industry focus primarily on just talking about the stepfamily dynamics because I think there's still a lack of understanding of how those stepfamily dynamics operate in remarriages. So there's a lot of people in a remarriage who don't recognize their conflict as being related to being in a stepfamily. And at the same time, there's people who focus too much on the stepfamily dynamics, and there's not enough understanding on what the real issues are that's going to cause the ReDivorce. So I think my piece of the puzzle here, in my opinion, is missing from the conversation. Okay? It is the relationship issues that causes ReDivorce. In fact, it's relationship issues that causes separation in all relationships, regardless of how long you've been together, and if it's your first marriage, second, or subsequent. So, what are relationship issues? Those are the things that cause hurt feelings, that break down your feeling of connection with and to each other, your trust in each other, feeling heard and validated, feeling safe enough to show up being yourself. I have a separate video on just the list of what I call relationship issues. In this video, I want to talk about the overview and instead of a deep dive. So I also want to touch on what I call a stable dysfunctional situation, because I feel like this is really prevalent. So stepfamily dynamics causes conflict. And if you want to know more about stepfamily dynamics and the biggest risk factors for conflict, then I suggest, I have a free mini ebook called The 5 Biggest Risk Factors for Conflict in Blended Families. You can get it on my website under free stuff. Go to the bottom, ebook, The 5 Biggest Risk Factors for Conflict in Blended Families, or go to tinyurl.com/5 blended family risks. The URL is also in the notes below. That's what causes the conflict. And then and in that ebook is also what you have to do to recover or resolve those particular stepfamily dynamics. Now, if you don't resolve those, they're going to bleed into the relationship and cause relationship issues. When you have relationship issues, you need to work on those relationship issues first and foremost in order to have long-term harmony and to change things around. However, when you're working on those relationship issues, you have to take into account the stepfamily dynamics. So if you try to resolve those issues, whether it's a relationship issue or a stepfamily issue, if you try to resolve those like you would in a first family, then you're not going to get the desired results. You're probably not going to experience harmony. You're going to argue about those things again and again, and you're probably not going to, again, not resolve them. Eventually, you're going to stop talking about them. And then you're in a stalemate. What do you do? So a lot of people stay in this situation, in limbo, trying to just cope with everything for a really long time. Some people stay in this situation for 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years. Do you know of people who have been married for 20 years, suddenly getting a divorce, and then tell you, and then when you express condolences, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, they're like, oh no, it's okay. It hasn't been working for a long time. I've heard that a lot. That's what I call stable dysfunction. There's things that are not working. Both people probably know it. You may or may not be being honest with yourself about that for various different reasons. There's a lot of fears that go into play on, let's just talk about it. The stigma of divorce. Again, another divorce. In our society, we call those failures. We look down upon those. I've had multiple quote-unquote failed relationships, but in my situation, all of my relationships ended amicably. In fact, I'm best friends with my ex-fiance. Do I consider that a failure? No, I don't consider any of my relationships a failure. My quote-unquote dysfunctional stepfamily experience, it did not work out. However, he and I are friends, and that was what I would call a conscious uncoupling. In other words, there was a mutual understanding that things were not going to reach a win-win situation. And now I want to talk a little bit about what that process to get there, so that you too can have a conscious, be proactive in conversations with your partner, so that you can, if you're in that stable dysfunction, you can hopefully get out of it. So I call this process AWAIT. Awareness, willingness, action plan, implementation, and tracking. AWAIT. So you basically need awareness of what the problem and solution is in order to go from harmony, or in order to go from conflict to connection to partnership, to get to long-term harmony. But if your partner is not in agreement on what that awareness of the problem and solution is, or you guys agree on what the awareness is, but not, or what the problem is, but not the solution, then you're not going to be able to move forward. So that is, in a nutshell, what is the real cause. And the stigma of divorce, the stigma of another failure, sometimes will be a blockage for talking about the issues, because you're so much in fear over the conflict itself, so much in fear over the argument, causing waves. Which, I get that, and I have compassion for that, because, and it totally makes perfect sense, because if you haven't been able to get resolution in the past, and you don't have any new solution or way to solve the problem, or even way to talk about the issue, then what you probably don't have hope, you probably don't believe that you're going to resolve it if you have another conversation. So the whole limbo thing does make sense. So I do feel like for some of you out there, there's ways to process some of the emotions around that, and maybe some understanding that at the deeper levels of really what those relationships are. And if you work through those, you can resolve those relationship issues, and then also the step-family dynamics, or in conjunction. So if you are having repetitive arguments, or if you're in that space, what I call stable dysfunction, and you feel like you're in limbo and stuck, and you don't know how to move forward, if you feel like you've heard everything there is to say on step-family dynamics and you still feel stuck, then reach out to me and let's have a conversation. This is my area of expertise. It's where I have the most personal experience in my personal relationships. It's where I have a lot of professional experience with clients. And also, in my personal situation, I navigated my own conversations, difficult conversations, in what I admit was a toxic environment. The toxicity wasn't coming from my partner. But I navigated those conversations in a way that we were able to mutually understand, mutually accept, agree to disagree in a way that we were not going to come to a solution. So again, ours was a conscious uncoupling, and it was an amicable separation. And I just want to ask you, if you're in that stable dysfunction, or should I stay or should I go situation, you've been in your situation for a long period of time, just want to ask you, what is the most important thing for you in your marriage relationship? Is it just to stay together so that you don't have another quote-unquote failed relationship marriage? Or is it connection? I would like to nullify and void what our society calls a failed relationship. Those are not failures. And the fact that mine ended amicably, I'm not inclined to call that a failure. I don't believe that I'm a failure. I don't believe that I quote-unquote failed in my relationships. I had a lot to learn. Unhealed trauma is a part of that. One of the things I learned is that I brought my own unhealed trauma from childhood into all of my relationships, and that impacted them. I believe that my partner in that situation also had unhealed trauma. I cannot verify that. I have not had a conversation with him about that, because that's a more recent understanding that I've learned about myself. So I'm not really sure how long I've been talking, but this video is meant to be an overview, and I think that I gave that, and I gave the blueprint for how to get from in a limbo state or in a high conflict state into a more harmonious state. I gave a couple suggestions, so I'm going to leave it there for now. Feel free to email me at hello@judygraybill.com. Judy, G as in girl, RAY, B as in boy, ILL.com. I'm open and offering a complimentary free conversation with me, a consultation to see if I can help you move the needle. No obligation whatsoever, zero. If I can't help you, that's it. No more conversation, no obligation, not gonna add you to my list. But if you've been in that situation for a long period of time and you want that connection, that's a basic human need, connection, then email me. Okay? hello@judygraybill.com. I hope you have a blessed day, and I'm wishing you the absolute best day, weekend, situation, everything. All right, thanks.